There's something strange about certainty. You've probably noticed it. The more we humans try to perfectly control the future, the more we realize that control itself is just an illusion. And honestly, that realization changes everything. We have this profound, almost undeniable habit. Whenever we see something acting competently, we instantly assume there's a mind behind it. We look at a machine doing something smart, and we desperately want to believe there's a ghost in the code. We project a soul into the circuits simply because our own minds can't tolerate a vacuum.
But then you look closer, and something unexpected happens. At first, it seems obvious, right? A machine writes a beautiful poem or eloquently answers a complex question, and we instinctively feel like it understands us. But beneath the surface, reality has entirely different plans. These learning systems are producing highly complex behavior, but entirely without intent. They have no goals of their own, no awareness, absolutely zero concept of meaning.
Which brings us to a rather uncomfortable question. If the machine isn't actually learning the way you and I do, if there is absolutely no comprehension happening inside those millions of operations, then what exactly is changing inside the system? Think about that for a second. If we completely strip away the magic, what is actually going on in the dark? Imagine we're just taking a quiet midnight walk together. Two curious minds trying to map out the hidden geometry beneath artificial intelligence. We're going to completely ignore the intimidating vocabulary people usually throw around and just look at the raw structure itself. There's this fascinating conversation in our sources between two characters, Maya and Rao. Maya points out that whenever a system adapts, we instantly say, "Oh, look, it's learning." But Rao catches the flaw in that thinking. You see, humans equate learning with gaining insight and finding meaning. But machines, they are just tuning their sensitivities. They're slightly adjusting mathematical weights to reduce error. That's it. It's purely behavioral adjustment under feedback. The machine doesn't know what it's doing. It only knows what makes the error number go down. So what happens if we refuse to be charmed? What if we remove the magic entirely? Let's pivot completely away from human psychology and look at the raw, undeniable first principles of these systems. How exactly does a machine process our world if it doesn't have a mind? Well, to answer that, we have to fundamentally change how we view language. In this space, meaning actually emerges from geometric relationships. I know that sounds strange, but to an AI, words aren't ideas. They are vectors, literal coordinates in a mathematical space. Human meaning gets transformed into measurable, physical distance. Words that show up in similar context are just placed closer together in that space. King and queen aren't royal concepts to the machine. They're just dots on a graph separated by a very specific, measurable distance. We call this a representation. Think of a representation like seeds planted in a massive, incredibly vast garden. Each seed is a structured piece of information, a vector that preserves whatever matters for a specific task, sitting quietly as a coordinate. The machine doesn't need to understand the concept of a garden. It just rapidly measures the distances between the seeds. But wait, if it's all just calculating distance, how does it become so remarkably capable? It works because in this realm, geometry essentially defines intelligence. Specific features define the dimensions of the space. Whether it's a human face, a spoken word, or your favorite movie, to the system, they are all just broken down into measurable patterns. Measure height and weight, and you've got physical body space. Measure pixel brightness and edge sharpness, and you get image space. Suddenly, the invisible structure of our world becomes visible to the math. And this reveals a pretty startling core truth. Artificial intelligence is simply structured mathematics operating in a loop. That completely shatters the whole myth of the mysterious black box we hear so much about. It's not an enigmatic digital brain. It's a flowing river of structure. It measures, it transforms, it decides, and it corrects, over and over again. This is the relentless, continuous loop driving modern systems. You can almost hear the rhythm of it. Input, math, decision, improvement. The machine takes data, calculates a score, makes a recommendation, learns from the feedback, and adjusts its parameters. Input, math, decision, improvement. But that raises a pretty massive red flag. If it's constantly optimizing for a goal, what happens when the data it's feeding on is flawed to begin with? Imagine looking out a window on a rainy night. The streetlights outside slightly distorted by the water on the glass. That's exactly how these systems see the world. Rao, one of the voices in our sources, says something that really sticks with you.
Data does not reveal truth. It reveals what the world allows us to see repeatedly. The system's entire picture of reality is shaped and often warped by its training data. If we feed a system mostly one specific kind of example, its whole universe bends to fit that exact mold. Because we have to remember, the system only knows what reduces its error rate. Optimization is an incredibly powerful force, but it's completely blind. It can easily amplify real-world harm simply because it possesses absolutely no values. And speed? Speed creates hidden errors. When an AI is moving too fast, optimizing solely for pure efficiency, it can quietly fracture the very human structures it was supposed to be improving.
And this brings us to the ultimate contrast, a truth we often forget. You are not an AI. A machine optimizes objectives. It manipulates representations in geometric space. But you hold values. You actually experience consequences. Machine intelligence is entirely derivative. It merely reflects design. But human judgment bears the heavy, deeply real weight of existence. We are the ones who have to live with the aftermath of the decisions being made. Which leads to this incredibly profound thought from Dev. Responsibility begins when certainty ends. We spend so much time waiting for perfect data before we make a move, convincing ourselves that we're just being cautious. But uncertainty isn't blindness. It's actually the true test of human character. Acting without having all the information means moving forward with a deep, calm awareness of what you do not know. So how exactly do we navigate a world filling up with these blind optimizing loops? We don't just become users, we become stewards. And the best way to understand this is through a concept known as the human review chair.
Picture a quiet, dimly lit classroom. Professor Isha used to place an empty physical chair right beside the computer running his models. He'd tape a sign to it telling his students, "No one sits here to decorate the process. This chair exists so a person can interrupt the model before the model interrupts a life." It takes this vast, abstract idea of AI safety and anchors it into a physical reality. The system is only truly safe if a human being has the power and the courage to hit pause.
But of course, that sparks another uncomfortable question. Urgent actually asks Dev this in the sources, and it's brilliant. What does ownership actually look like when a system is the one acting? If the math makes the choice, who owns the consequence?
The answer is stark. It looks like categorically refusing to ever say, "the system decided." Because delegation without ownership isn't efficiency, it's abdication. The system only acted within the boundaries that human beings set for it. Ethics begins exactly where intention ends. We can't just hide behind a complex algorithm and pretend the responsibility belongs to the math.
So the crucial takeaway here is embracing a different kind of loop, what we might call the loop of legacy. We have to learn the structure, live with the consequences of it, repair the gaps it creates, teach the principles to the next person in the chair, serve the vulnerable who are impacted by it, and constantly renew our own judgment. This is what keeps humanity alive in the loop. We don't just build these massive systems, we steward them.
As Dev reminds us, mature judgment asks, what will we regret losing? True wisdom isn't just about relentlessly pushing boundaries just to see how fast we can go. It's about having the maturity to recognize limits. It's about fiercely preserving the safeguards that protect our choices, that absorb our inevitable failures, and that prevent irreversible harm. Intelligence does not live in silicon components. It lives in structure, and you are the architect of that structure. Your values, your moments of hesitation, your deeply unquantifiable humanity, that is the ultimate safeguard. You are not an AI, and that is your greatest strength. Perhaps wisdom was never really about predicting the future. Perhaps it was learning how to walk bravely through uncertainty. And maybe that journey never truly ends.